Hey, what's up guys? It's Ben to That's Why Joe, your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh! Superhero, and this is the third time I've tried to record this video. Being a pet owner is a pain in the backside. Anyway, guys, so this video was inspired by John Moore from House of Champs. So he made a discussion about the current format and how it's and its level of toxicity. So I've decided I wanted to add to the conversation. So some of the things I'm going to agree with him on, some of the things I'm not going to agree with him on. But that is what it is. You know what I mean? It's Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not life, so it's not that important. So I'm gonna leave a link to his video somewhere, like either in the pinned comment or in the description somewhere. So make sure you check that below, because I want to give credit where it's due. I probably wouldn't be making this video if John hadn't made his video first. So that being said, oh, and real quick, I know I've been gone for a little bit. I know I haven't posted in a little while. I've been working on my dinosaur deck behind the scenes again because I'm just not quite done tinkering with it. So, yeah, it's been a little bit frustrating, especially with this format. So I kind of wasn't, so John, thank you for making your video because it inspired me to make this one. And I want to talk about this format and why I'm kind of frustrated with it. Oh, real quick, before I forget, I almost forgot. We have merch. Check that out. Let everybody know you're a trickster. It's in the Teespring link in the description below. Peace. So, the thing is that I honestly have been frustrated with the format lately and not enjoying Yu-Gi-Oh! As much as I used to because, like, even if we go to the other format where it was, before the previous format where it was like Eldritch and Emancipator were just running around rampant and wrecking everything, I still felt like, even as a dinosaur player, that I stood a chance. I wasn't, I didn't always, I'm not gonna lie, I lost more games than I won, probably. If I don't really know, though. I'm pretty sure I've lost more games than I won. But that being said, being the dinosaur player that I am, in the previous format, I still felt like I had a chance at winning the game. In this format, I really am struggling. And I even have newer cards added to my repertoire. Like, thank you to the Megatins, I was able to purchase a few new cards. Not a lot, because I couldn't afford to actually buy a 10. I just bought the cards I wanted that I could afford out of them. But I still feel like I can't keep up. And one of the things that's a big problem here is we're going to talk about a Smoke Grenade of the Thief. This card in the decks, the Infernoble Knight deck and the Dragon Link deck, have made it feel like it is impossible to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now because this card, they basically use like cards like Halka-Fibrax and other things to abuse the equip spells, port mechanic out of it, and basically what they end up doing is long story short, they get their grenade, they look at your hand, they snipe a card, and then usually they have Herald of the Arclight out, so it gets banished instead of added to the, instead of going to the graveyard. And because of this, they're sniping your best card, and they're sniping it permanently gone, and that's just been my experience, and I don't appreciate it. They get free information from the hand, and I find that to be a problem. And it feels like, from my experience, like they've been powering, like I could have a hand full of like 3 hand traps. I'm talking Ash, Gamma, Effect Veiler, or what, Imperm, Ghost Over, whatever, and it feels like it's not enough. It really does feel like that. In fact, in my experience, it's basically been open token collector or bust. It's at least against Infernoble Knight because I haven't played it much against Dragon Link, and most of the Dragon Link decks I have come across aren't really using this Smoke Grenade move. They're just using the typical Dragon Link moves, but it still feels. I don't like hand loops. That's a thing that, like, and I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in that. Most Yu-Gi-Oh players don't like hand loops. We don't like hyper floodgate focused formats, and we don't like alternate win conditions. We want to win by overpowering our opponent, either by in a battle sense. I think is how most of us want to win the game. We want to outplay our opponents, but in this case, it's very much, it doesn't feel very skillful. It just feels like, oh, I look at your hand and then just refuse to let you make any moves that are, now that I know what your hands are, you're not going to be able to make any competent move at all because I know what you're playing. And I get free information is good. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. It's just that this is very, it's so toxic. It is toxic. because like how are you? There's no way to defend against this. The two decks that are piloting this combo with the smoke grenade also have the ability to power through multiple hand traps, so it makes hand traps like basically useless if your opponent is playing those two decks. The next thing that John mentioned is, like, he was talking about how Calamities and Zexal aren't much of a problem right now. And I'm like, that's because of the decks that are piloting this. Because if you're piloting these two things, I mean, like, and then it kind of comes back down to the dice roll, if you will. So, if you're playing the deck that pilot, you know, the Dragon Link or the Infernobles, I mean, and your opponent's playing these, well, good luck. You're not going to win. It's just not going to happen. The next thing that John talked about is Miscellaneous Horus, and how he thinks that this card needs to go to 1. And this is a point where him and I are going to disagree. But I'm a dinosaur player, so you can take my opinion with a grain of salt. I'll be straight up transparent about it. I don't want this card to go anything less than 3. I think this card needs to stay in the game because it's like one of the only things that allow dinosaurs to even be remotely playable. If you want me to be honest, this is the card that I think needs to change on the list, and it needs to come back to 3. Because when Miscellaneous Horus and this were both at 3, did you notice that nobody was complaining about Miscellaneous Horus? Or at least they weren't complaining about it as much. So that's my solution. Because the problem here is that the cards that people are using to counter Miscellaneous Horus, you know, like these cards don't counter it, or they just, you know what I mean? Like these are the anti, well, these two are like the anti or replacements for this card. Or the other anti-hand trap card, and though these cards are just too expensive, nobody can afford them. So not most Yu-Gi-Oh players, I would say, can afford them. But you know, does Konami care? No. Anyway, long story short, that's my solution. I say, and if you really want to be honest with you, I think the Argosaur, the Bubble Dinosaur, I can't ever pronounce its name. I think if you really want me to be honest, that's the card. If you were going to ban a dinosaur card, that's the one that should get banned. But it won't, because I'm going to tell you why. Because it's an expensive card. And Konami's probably not done making money off of it. So, and that's going to be the Dino starter if they ever hit anything, which will probably be Fossil Digger or Oviraptor, which I don't want, but that's just me being realistic. The next thing that John talked about that I remember is that he was talked about the Destruction Sword card and how he's on the fence about it. And I'm kind of with him there a little bit too. But I also play dinosaurs and other decks that aren't as extra deck reliant. And I know that there are a lot of decks out there that really are. And he doesn't really like, and let's face it, floodgates are very frustrating like that. He also mentioned something about Lost World, but I don't think Lost World's really all that powerful. To be honest, I think a lot of the bigger, the powerful decks right now are playing like Link Kuriboh, and Link Kuriboh is like a direct out to Lost World. So I just don't think it's as powerful as it could be. And plus, like the way with chains and all that stuff, I mean, it's not that powerful in my opinion. It also gets taken out way too easily, at least in my experience. Although, if you want to talk about a field spell that I think that is a problem, it's on here on the screen, and it's Mystic Mine. I still think this card is a problem. I've thought it was a problem pretty much since its inception. And I know we just got Harpy's Feather Duster and all that stuff, but this card probably needs to still go down to 1, because I can guarantee you that the Mystic Mine deck is going to go up in power. And it's probably also the Zexal Calamities, because that's kind of what was happening before everyone knew about the smoke grenade move. It was just, okay, floodgate your opponent so they can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's toxic too, don't get it twisted, it absolutely is. I was up against an Eldritch player just the other day, and he whipped out fucking this and this on me, like both these cards on me, and I was like, well, I lose, what am I going to do against that? Which leads me to the next thing I want to talk about is the Red Eyes Dragoon. Initially, I was very bothered by this card. I'm not gonna lie. And yes, this is a back scratcher, but this card was that card bothered me a lot. You guys know this. There's a whole video on my channel about how much this card bothered me, and I still think that the engine with this card, with Red Eyes Fusion and Anaconda, needs to be hit. So only like 3 decks can play this thing. I stand by that. I think this is where John and I kind of agree a little bit. It's kind of the same concept as this card. I think it's the ease of accessibility to this floodgate that's a problem. and I feel the same way about this particular negator, because this card is literally like a boss, is a big boss, like the boss to end all boss monsters. I mean, he negates, he destroys, he can't be destroyed, he can't be targeted, he does burn damage. I mean, this monster is a boss among bosses. And I think limiting the decks that could play this card to Red Eyes and DM would be beneficial for the health of the game. Just me giving my 2 cents. He also talks about LP. Oh, and I mentioned Link Cross, but I mean, like, you know, these two are kind of interchangeable. You can mostly. He also mentions LP and how Dragon Link players are like, you know, like, oh yeah, that's how we'll hit Dragon Link. Honestly, I think you should just either hit Halka-Fibrax or hit this. I honestly don't think that LP is all that big a deal. I don't really think monsters that summon other monsters from the deck are usually all that big a deal, but I do find it to be frustrating when certain cards make certain things a problem. But this, yeah. And then Apollosa was another card he mentioned, because it's like, but see, here's the thing, it's a once per chain, so there's ways to get around it. And that's just how I feel about it. Like, I think you could just be like, okay, well, this card is quite beatable. I think, like, you know, like, and another thing, and it also comes back to the cards like Dark Ruler No More and Nibiru. Everything, in my opinion, the game needs more balance. It does, and right now it doesn't have it. Right now it's either this very toxic, I'm going to look at your hand, I'm going to snipe your best card, and then now that I know your information, you're not going to be able to do anything, or I'm going to floodgate you into oblivion and you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! So right now the game needs some deep balance. I feel like the game is just missing its balance right now, and it's, you know, and we're in a very toxic format right now. It's basically, oh, well, I want to either floodgate you, like I said, floodgate you to oblivion, or I'm just going to snipe all your hand to get all the information and then have a giant board of negates on the field and lets you power through that. And the short answer is you won't power through either one if you're not playing the decks that facilitate those. That's just my 2 cents on it. I want you guys to be part of the conversation too. I want you to leave your comments below. What do you think? Are you having fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh right now? Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not really having fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh right now. You know, I don't typically think I'm like the best player, but I do typically think I'm a decent player, and right now I just cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh. I am so demotivated by this format. And it's very much like I just want to go into the casual section and type no hand loops and then actually play Yu-Gi-Oh. And it's just, but I often try to play against the meta decks because, you know, you guys like that. You guys want to see me play against them, and I just right now it's just, I'm so demotivated right now. And I don't know. I want you guys' opinion. You guys let me know. What do you think? Are you demotivated right now? Are you enjoying this format? I mean, you know, that way I can know to stay away from you. Just kidding. Anyway, guys, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Ben 2000 YGO. I'm your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh! Superhero. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.